Day 3 of 5 days of Defiance. Thank you so much for those of you who are tracking day by day. This is a free offering, and today's all about innocence, about the power of simplicity. So take time, if you just come across this live stream, indulge in half an hour to an hour with me to create a space for yourself to drop in. So one thing that I'm really big on is the simple ingredient cake mix of the universe, which is simply humans and space. So right now here I'm in my backyard, and there's this beautiful hill with trees down there. And of course, if I think back to all of the different uses of the space, it's now a house. Different lives have been lived in this house. Before the houses were built, there could have been animals grazing here. Before the animals were grazing, it could have been turned into a ritual burial ground. Before that, it could have been a battlefield. Before that, it could have been, a flat land that was then shifted into a hill through the tectonic shifts. This is the same space. This exact area was ordained as being anything from a backyard to a burial ground to a classroom, a church, whatever it is. And so sometimes we feel we need to go somewhere special. We need to travel to an exotic location. And particularly in times like it's been with lockdown, we can feel we're deprived, not even necessarily going to our favorite Mecca across the world, but even just to our local space, to our local church, to our local community hub, hanging out with friends in parks, etc. But to think that our experience is completely reliant on an official space starts to make us feel like we're on the outside of our own life, like we don't have a membership pass to these important experiences and practices, these phases, some people call it the noosphere, some people call it, I guess, the cloud server, the meta space, the Akashic records, the dream time. For me, that's the actual process. And the physical land is just a place that we choose to cast out or project that arena onto. So wherever you are right now, point being, wherever you are, take this time to stop, to recalibrate, and imbue your current environment, even if it's just your bedroom, with being a place of change, with being a sacred space, with being an important arena that you are going to rise to meet. Because often these sacred spaces, these important, ordained halls, the graduation space, the stage you step onto, has a point and is a point of reference and reverence. And so you rise and you perform. You are going to sprint faster when you're at the Olympic Games. You are going to allow your knees to be grazed, and you're going to open and break beyond your personal threshold, your limitation, to have that connection with God, to have that free flow. Maybe as a musician, you'll play like you've never played because you're in front of a large audience. So give that to yourself, is what I'm saying. Even if you're in lockdown, even if you're just in your bedroom, this session with me right here, right now, we're doing it live, is a chance for you to give that importance to your space. And you can reset it afterwards. You can turn it back into your living room, your backyard. But this is your arena. And it is when we come down to the elements of the universe, like it's just humans in space, simple. Or it's just me and it's just you. This is where innocence really takes hold. And in the modern world, I think we've been alienated from and ostracized from our own innate innocence through the imposition of the experts, through the grandeur of whether it be government or celebrity or the arcane, inaccessible knowledge of the medical field or big finance, even in art itself. Reading music is quite intimidating because it's got, the stave and it's got these lines and circles, and we don't feel we have access. We don't feel we have permission and a right. So we start to feel inferior. We start to feel like an imposter. And we start to feel like we should just take the invitation and advice of someone greater than us. And that is hugely disempowering. And it is a disrespect to the honesty and authenticity in innocence, which is simply naming what you see, feeling what you feel, knowing what you know. And that is so important when we come into a space when there is so much opinion, so much manipulation of information. This idea of misinformation and disinformation can go both ways. It's not like there's a verifiable, validatable pool of godly ordained objective fact and everything else is a variation on it. It's all a variation because we are all interpreting per our prejudice, and some would argue very directly manipulating for a particular intended outcome. Whether it be malicious or just by chance, there's been a lot of people who have benefited from the tragedies which have been happening. And there's a number of different tragedies. I've been referencing the three main ones on my kind of field. Obviously is the pandemic, the floods in the northern rivers for my personal community in Australia, and then of course the big one in Russia and Ukraine. One of the key things when I look at systems design is I would love to live in a world where no one benefits from tragedy, where we gear things up so that there's surplus and there's resources so that we can spill them into a time to distribute when needed in emergencies, but that no one can benefit, that there can't be higher plane tickets when people need to get out of a country, that there can't be people being paid for essential medicines, and therefore perhaps wanting a particular malady to continue so they can continue to profit. There should be, going right down to the prison system, I don't think that if you are being paid as people get incarcerated, there is this baseline survival want to continue people being incarcerated, because that is actually the baseline for this organization to persist. So a medical institution that only gets paid when we are well sounds like a good idea to me. A prison system which only gets paid when people are not committing crimes. This is the way that our baseline vital sign will push us towards the resolution rather than creating and perpetuating more of a problem. So that's more of a kind of a political, cynical stance of maybe these things are orchestrated. Regardless of if they are or not, it's our baseline right to just simply observe. And my intention for this particular session is to revivify and consolidate and bolster your confidence in your simple subjective experience. And I think for me, that is a key anchor into sanity. If you question your own mind and you think you don't know what's going on, we go into overwhelm. If we can simply breathe, smell, taste, touch, feel, and have a conversation. This is another thing which I think is really a travesty at the moment, is the lack of conversation. Instead, we hurl our ideas and call each other idiots and then shove each other into stereotypes of either left wing or right wing, or however you like to divide ourselves, vaxxed and unvaxxed, or Russia, Ukraine, whatever it is. And we ignore the spectrum, the many shades of gray which most of us actually reside in and exist in. You know, if anyone could ever be only one extreme. So come back to your observation, and let's do that right now. Thanks for those of you who are joining me. Having a look at a few of the people here. Yeah, Velvet, Athena, thanks for being here. So this is day 3 of 5. This is a free offering. It's 5 days of Defiance, and today we are looking at Innocence. So let's drop in right now. Take your time to ground wherever you are, and orient to your own personal practice as well. That's another big thing I'm wanting to encourage, is use me at this particular time, 10 a.m. every day, Monday to Friday, this week only, New Zealand time, to set your alarm and come back to your own personal practice. So right now, as you center in, feel that warmth in your heart. Give yourself some love, the fact you showed up today, whether it be live or watching the replay. And if you have committed to this 5-day journey, thank you for stepping in once again. And for me, that is one of the key things, is simply to show up. Even if you don't have the answers, even if you feel like you're overwhelmed, simply showing up is an amazing testament to your ability to get back up again. As they say, it's not how many times you get knocked down, it's can you get back up one more time. Just one more time, then you get knocked down, and that keeps you standing. So feel the gratitude. You might want to place a hand on your heart. And as well as the physical heart, what does the energetic heart feel like? What is it like when you actually breathe into your heart? So taking a breath now with open mouth, if you can. And as you breathe into your heart, feeling a softness in your shoulders. And the smile doesn't start with the face. The smile starts somewhere else in the body. You might want to orient it in your belly. But what's it like and can you even take a hold of happiness and allow it to rise and bubble up through your bodies and smile authentically? Like I said, not starting in the face. The smile in the face hopefully is a byproduct of a sensation of joy or elevation, illumination, expansion, resonance, harmony, realization. And what does realization feel like to you? Do you know what it is like on a somatic level to realize? Can we be autodidactic or self-teaching? When we are brought up in a factory-based institution of education, we think we have to memorize the right answer to pass. So instead of actually learning and feeling through observation, which I think is the core of science, we come into the state of trying to learn things verbatim and know, we play the system. I know you want to hear this, so I'm going to give you that so that you give me what I need. So it's very transactional. You're going to give me my pass if I give you the right answer. And we strip away the science of observation, and part of that science is actually intuition, is actually sensation. So what is it like to know when you are realizing truth? And of course, truth is subjective, and do we come to any objective truth ever? Well, that's debatable. But point being, for you, you know your truth, what works for you. Hopefully you've had a number of experiences, and you also got to call your own bullshit. It's like, I thought I was onto something, but I was deeply traumatized, triggering everyone around me and stuck in my habitual loops. Got you, I see you, me, and starting to know when you are behaving in a certain way that is trapped in this, I was going to say self-effacing, self-deprecating, but it's also self-sabotaging is the words, these self-sabotaging loops. And in counterpoint, when were the moments that you were just absolutely brave enough to call your own bullshit and feel the beauty of what was? What does that feel like is the most important thing. What does that feel like? Can you get a sense of unlocking? Can you get a sense of that friction point when you face the truth? Can you get a sense of softening the emotional or energetic resistance? Can you get a sense of the harmony, the clarity, maybe visually? I had a moment like that the other day when I was literally right here and I was doing a morning meditation, and I looked out and I could see more clearly. It wasn't so much that my eyes had focused better. It was simply that the houses in the distance, I must have had a funnel vision where I didn't want to see them. Maybe it's because I like my own little sanctuary. I didn't want to think that there were houses there. But all of a sudden, they were clearer to me in my awareness. So not visually clearer, but my awareness suddenly opened out. It's like, oh wow, I can take you in so much clearer now. And this is how we get a gauge of ourselves. We learn the instrument of our own awareness. So that's what I'm asking you right here to do, is as you ground in with me, as you breathe into your heart, as you soften, as you give yourself thanks and gratitude for showing up to do your practice, what does it feel like when you start to hear the true note of your resonance? And can we start to actually elicit that response at will? Can we start to play ourselves? And it's this give and take. Do we need to have a realization or receive a gift in order to feel good? Or can we start on the other end and start to feel good by unpacking the same somatic shifts in energy and breath and posture, maybe even hormonally, whatever needs to shift? Can it start from nothing? And this is the difference between state and story. For many years I've talked about this, and I'm also starting to hear, I'm not saying that people are copying me, I'm saying that we are tapping into a similar realization. I'm hearing it more and more, this idea of state versus story. What's it like to state shift? What's it like to not need a story, not need a good thing to happen, not need external validation in order for me to start the state shift into happiness, fulfillment, being satiated, being at peace, calm, safe. And this is so important when we are locked away in lockdown, when we are on the other border from a loved one, when we are helpless, what seems like a world away from people on a frontier that we literally can't get resources to, or we can't actually know the cultural and political context that a particular conflict is happening in. What can I do and not feel apathetic? That is a key thing I want to forward, is for us to not be in apathy, for us to not segregate, for us to not shut our mouth, for us to not become inert and inactive, because there's something you can do, even if just shifting your own state. And then from there, we emanate out, like I'm doing here through my camera, out to other people, and that is going to have who knows what effect. So let's self-source And let's start to go into a little bit of nihilism even. And this is a really useful meditation for me. This idea of meaninglessness and being okay with that, but still having joy. And also, as part of the nihilistic river that I sometimes float down, one of the other tools I use is to experience the thing that I'm wanting to avoid. As a meditation. Don't always have to physically put myself through it. But as I said yesterday about these threshold release techniques, often the pain of avoidance is so much worse than the experience that we are trying to avoid. Sometimes, in fact, ironically, the experience itself would be very positive, and yet we've got so much pain of avoidance and restriction and constriction and anticipation, anxiety, grief of something we haven't lost yet. Like, how many of us have suffocated a romantic relationship because we fear losing the person, which then predicates them actually breaking up with us, or us even just running away from them? How ironic that we fear something so much that we bring it about. But that seems to be one of the human habits. So, dropping in now, very simple. I'm not going to do a huge embodied drop in. If you want that, have a look at day 1. I was looking more about body basics, and we did some stretching and breathing and body organ connection and all that kind of thing. So take yourself through that quickly now, but from your grounded state, with a full-bodied breath in, belly, heart, wings, softening your face. You can do it with your hands if you want, maybe massaging down your face, feeling into your vagus nerve, these nerves plugged into the back of your face, which comes down the front through the central meridian and plugs into your vital organs. Just feeling a sense of soothing. And let's tune in with ourselves. Like our body is our companion. And say we're going to now go through a meditation. It's going to be completely safe. But we're actually going to experience some of the things that we fear might happen. Because the irony is when we fear them, we put a lot of attention on them. And in Qigong and Tai Chi, they talk about how where attention goes, energy flows. So we actually end up feeding our fears and bringing about that reality. So let's just do it. Let's just do it intentionally. I came across a practice once, which was the idea of intentionally doing the thing you're trying to stop. So if you've got a habit, if you've got a tic, I used to have this thing on my shoulder. I used to bring it up like this, my nose and my mouth. Had a lot of these, I'm sure there's a medical evaluation of what it was, but it was this sense of I needed to move my body in a certain way. And rather than resisting and trying to hold it, I sometimes just do it intentionally. So it's kind of like clicking in the aware part rather than the subconscious sort of spurring the body's actions. And this can happen on your stress levels. It can happen on literally your posture, your face. You might be holding a certain face you're unaware of. Tap in through sensation and actively do the thing so your awareness starts to be associated with that habit in the subconscious. So we're going to do the same thing with the fear. Rather than continually trying to avoid something, we're going to go through a process now of experiencing it at will. And then hopefully when at will, we take our foot off that accelerator, that car won't be driving forward on automatic towards that brick wall that we're actually trying to avoid. But first, let's just tune in with our body and tell us, and yeah, we're going to now stir the mind. And we're going to have a somatic sensation of something which might be unpleasant, but it's okay because it's just a process. And it's actually going to free us up from not directly manifesting that. And it's also going to allow us to gain access to the life force that we are avoiding. Because often a lot of these growth phases, whether it be a hard conversation or going into the cold or doing some exercise or learning something which feels very difficult to learn, there is pain there. But there's so much life source that we get access to as well. So remind your body, whether that be your physical body, your energetic body, your emotional body, however you like to think of it, that this process, while it might involve some hardship, is going to actually avail you to some mana, some food, some prana, some chi, some kundalini, some life force. You're actually going to get a reward from this. So thank you, body, for going through this. Thank you, emotions. Thank you, mind, for daring to feel into that which we avoid. So just 3 breaths now with a sigh on the exhale. Even deeper now, imagine breathing right down to your toes. Maybe yawning. Opening up the throat, feeling a softening of the back of the head, feeling you breathing down into your perineum and softening your root. Feels very vulnerable. Feeling some of that joy coming up, state shifting into excitement, because you're doing a cool thing right now. I believe that our daily practice should be a joy, like a reward, not, oh, I've got to show up to the mat again. No, you're stepping into the arena. How lucky for you. And now coming into stillness, I want you to expand your awareness into the space that you're in and feel the air around your skin. Feel the dimensions of the space that you're in. Feel the stillness of the earth that you're under. And the wise teachers of nature, they are so consistent. Maybe you even just want to hold on to something that is not moving. And get the reality update of how okay things are in this moment. Regardless of the stories in our screens and the whispers in our communities and the fear in our minds, things are actually okay in this moment for most of us, most of the time. And so from this place of safety and stillness, we're going to imagine somatically, you might want to close your eyes so you can just really fully go there. But what is the outcome that the mainstream headlines are shaking in our face and making us shrink through? Is it the idea of you or your family getting sick? Is it the idea of an invading military force coming into your country? Is it the idea of the financial system collapsing and you losing your job? Is it the idea of you having to do something else to survive that doesn't light your passion up and you live a meaningless life? Is it the idea of the elements changing and there being a bushfire or a flood? What is it that you worry about or that you are being told you should worry about? Let's do it. Even if it's not just for you, even if it's for the collective. Let's do this now. Of casting yourself into that situation. For example, if it's a fear of loss of a partner, and maybe you've got an attachment style that's suffocating them, and they're like, I need to feel sovereign as well as being connected. Just imagine losing them. Imagine the harmonious, yet very real actuality of them not being in your life. And what state does that bring about in your body? How does it affect your inner organs? How does it affect your heart? Not trying to avoid it, but actually sitting with that actuality and allowing it to play out. What would that mean? How would it change your life? What would that mean about you? And that last part's really important. What would that mean about you? Often it comes down to a basic survival desire of not dying. And so many of these things we want to avoid will not kill us. And yet on a physiological animal level, that's kind of the equation. If I do that, I'm going to die. If they leave me, I'm dead. If the flood comes, I'm drowned. If the bullet goes, it's going to hit me. And yet often that's not the case. So just feel, can you be in your state of wellness? Can you be safe and grounded even without that person? Even if you lost the job? Even if the economy collapsed? And this is the other thing, is that all of these systems interrelate but are not each other. The money is not the food. The rent is not the house. So even if all banks froze up, it wouldn't mean that my house would disappear. You have a conversation with the landlord and say, hey, the bank has frozen my accounts because the economy is collapsing. As you well know, you're probably in the same situation to me, and I'm going to need to defer this for a month or two. Human beings comprise nations, not some preordained, perfectly realized eldership, part AI, part spirit runs these things. It's just human beings on a planet we were born into with abundant food and shelter, all for free. And we've constructed a man-made thing which creates so much stress about nation states and religions and financial institutions. We've tokenized everything into something we can control. But that actual control is not direct. It is a poetic, at best, analogy, a metaphor for another thing. As we know, money is not based even on the gold standard anymore. It's just an idea backed by confidence. And we continue to say, yeah, well, I'm going to give you this little bit of plastic and you're going to take it because you know you can give it to someone else. But it's not the thing. And we need the thing, not the metaphor. A rose by any other name. A house, you can call this a muffin. As long as I can sleep in it at night, I'm good. So even if these travesties befall you, get beset by, the base level survival will still continue. And I just want you to feel that duality. Still experience the thing you want to avoid. Pretend you're there. Manifest it only in energy alone so that you can start to unlock your resistance to it and therefore stop being so obsessed about it and ideally not bring it about. And even in the midst of that storm, even with the terrible thing being an actuality, feel if you actually are okay and still surviving. Feel if your body is alive. Feel if you still have access to the thing you love most in life. Nature maybe, art. Can you still paint a picture? Can you still hug a friend? Can you still eat dessert in that terrible situation? And often, yes. And if not, then maybe that's also part of the lesson. So I've done some rituals myself where, and actually I'm on day 2 of fasting right now, but I've done other extended fasts. I've done times when I've crossed countries without using money. And in those hardships, I'm actually exposed to much greater value. So that thing, eating that dessert, hugging that friend, painting that picture, what's the underlying richness and havingness and wealth that it brings? Is it that you have to own a paintbrush? Or is it that you like to move color around? Is it that you have to hug that particular friend? Or is it just that you want to be able to imbue your maternal or paternal nature into something? Or simply just to have a physical grounding to bring you down from your mind into your body? What is the underlying need that is being served? And often, even if that is deprived, you're deprived of that, you'll still have access to the underlying thing. So just take another 30 seconds now just to surrender even further into the actuality of that thing you want to resist. And allow some part of yourself to say, okay, I am okay with this. Should this come about, I can live through it. I'm not calling it in, but I'm also not putting all my energy into resisting it. And I don't need to control all other people and all other things in life in order to feel safe. I will flow, I will bend, I will continue to grow and thrive, I will learn. And I will find the beauty in connection because we are in this together. Maybe the hardship will bring us closer. Maybe it'll shake me up so I am actually going to release all of the unnecessary parts. Maybe I'll leave a job that I've been clinging to out of safety because I can't go there anymore because the building burnt down or something. And now it's like, thank God for that because I wanted to leave before now. Are we externalizing responsibility by waiting until the flood goes over the road before we don't cross it? Maybe I didn't want to cross that road to begin with, but I needed someone else to tell me not to go. What knowingnesses are we ignoring and waiting for an external tragedy or disaster to force our hand? What bravery do we need to step into to claim it before the disaster strikes? So gently wrapping up that meditation of the bad thing, so to speak, that we're going to avoid. Well done, you're still here, you still survived. Now let's shift from the bad thing into a nothingness. Can we get a sensation of releasing at the back of the head? Can we breathe in a really soft way? Can we soften the things that we can't even soften? Like my hand is clenched, that's easy. Now I soften my hand, cool, I can physically do that. Can I soften it even further? How? I've already unclenched the fist, but there's another layer of softness. So can you sense the second or third layer of surrender? Maybe even let's start with tension. Let's squeeze our body. Everything, no, cool, and now soften it. Can you feel the energy that comes with that? There's a physical, but there's also an energetic and hormonal, emotional softness that comes. And now, let's not do the body softening, but just do the energetic and emotional softening. I feel it, at least. It's working for one person. That's working for me. All right. We're going to do that again. I just really want it to land what we're doing. We're squeezing the body physically, then we're softening it physically, but we're paying attention to the other non-physical softenings that also occur. And this is the way we start to gain leverage into the intangible. The concept of energy work, the concept of prayer even, can sometimes be just like a wafty concept that we can't do something with. I can pick up a shovel, I can dig a hole, but I can't necessarily take off the grief. How do I even pick up the grief to begin with? And this is because we work as, I believe, a conglomerate of different realms or dimensions. There is the physical, the mental, the emotional, the spiritual, all these kind of intangible aspects, but they work in concert and they affect each other, and we actually know them. We know them as one thing, we experience them as maybe releasing, but they're actually very different things. So we're going to do it again, we're going to squeeze and then we're going to release, but I want you to bring your attention to the non-physical softening that's happening. For me, it's kind of like a shimmer in my core. It's this like bubbling up of energy. It's this sense of space opening, a little bit of emotional joy. There's a few things happening there. So we're going to squeeze, then we're going to release. We're going to pay attention to the non-physical release, and then we're going to reenact it on the energetic, emotional level without actually changing the physicality at all. Hopefully that's landing. So let's do it now. Squeezing the body. Really bringing your belly button into with your spine, squeezing the perineum, coming up, hunching the shoulders. Okay, it's quite tense. And now we're going to soften once. Amazing. And now soften again, energetically, emotionally. Looping, maybe again. How much can you soften a soft? Is it more softenable? And just loop that a few times, like a mantra of surrender. So we're not doing any more physical softening, but maybe it's actually going right down to our tendons. Maybe it's going down to our organs. If a burp come up there, allow yourself to yawn or fart or burp. Maybe that's another softening. And what is the little tingle in the nervous system? Can you feel a little rippling through your central nervous system? How do you want to breathe? And can the looping of the softening become the focal point to replace the need for mind chatter? Sometimes to sit in nothingness is hard because the mind fills it up. But what happens if we have an anchor on the sensation of softening and just loop that? How pleasurable. Just feeling an echo and an echo and an echo, like an inception, a shell within a shell within a shell of fractal softening. And just keep opening, like a lotus flower, petal layer after petal layer, and nothing but sensation of softening, softening. Hey, 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 hey. Good. Now present, open up your eyes, take in what is now. Take in your immediate environment from the openness without the analysis. And are you okay? Do you need to fear something now? And now take in not just what your senses directly take in, but take in your suburb. Is it okay? Is there evidence and experience of disaster? And there might be, and just filter through what is and what is not. What is the mind? What is the whisper? What is the illusion? What is the story? What is the state? And now go even further beyond. Just sense, even if you can't see it. And don't go to the mainstream media. Don't go to the Wikipedia. Don't go to your phone. Go to your sense. What is the state of your nation? Sense down. What is the state of the environment right now around you? And through that, what is the state of your body? The actuality is the simplicity of your senses taking in now. And that needs to be updated now, and now, and now. And this is one of the requests that freedom makes of us. Are you willing to step up and open to what is now? Are you willing to navigate and both push and pull in the dance of life? What is the state of the world now from a state of stillness? And now we step into the next beautiful part, I call love letters, is What communication would your inner child, your innocent self, want to send out? If you're in the street and there's someone who needs food, needs money, probably you just want to go and give them your lunch. If there is someone who's continually cutting down trees, you probably want to go and ask them to stop. If there's someone in your community who puts other people down and makes them feel unsafe, you probably want to go up and say, hey, you make me feel a bit unsafe. I don't want to talk when I'm around you. These are the simple, childlike, immature, maybe naive truths that often we silence. So the process is an integrative process. We're moving forward now. You've sat in your stillness, you've looked at the world and the actuality, the state of things, from self out to direct space, out to community, out to nation, out to world. And what do you really want to say? What contributions do you really want to make? What has the cynicism of the adulthood and the necessary evils of whatever injustices we're told we need to just deal with, would you go face to face with and ask for some kind of resolution or healing around? And I believe it is in the communication, simply the trying, simply the innocence of honoring your knowing, that will heal us hugely and start to ripple out a trust in our humanity. Because I know a lot of us right now don't trust humans because we see all the things that they're doing. And so it's a key role that we can play as an individual is to be worthy of trust, to be authentic in communication, to confess our desires, to rally around beautiful, noble ideas of harmony with the environment, harmony across sexes and genders and races and religions, harmony across many different schisms, and dare to invest and trust in our potential humanity. Dare to be evidence of someone doing a simple, noble thing that we all had on our mind, tips of our tongues, but so many bit the tongue and didn't say the thing. Be the idiot if it need be. Be the clown. Be the first one to go and ask people to stop mining in your local area or in your country. Stop digging up this coal. Stop perpetuating the petrodollar. Stop laughing at the racist or sexist joke in quiet behind whatever it is. Just be stupid to the point of directness and honesty. And even if that person gets triggered, even if it falls on deaf ears, you might write a letter to your politician and never get a reply. But we'll be surprised, I think, at where the ripple of our beacon reaches. I probably won't know all the people that watch this video. They might scroll past for a second, they might do the whole session and not reply or comment. Someone might get triggered, but who knows what ripple effect it has. And I do believe if you come from a resonance of at least an intention to help, that's why I'm here, I'm just trying to help, you know? It doesn't necessarily matter that I'm successful. It's the evidence of someone attempting and going on an inclination to contribute and belong and improve, to lift up. That in itself is a massive paradigm shift. And I believe that this is no longer a place just for storybooks or just for our circle or just for the therapist couch or just for a small festival tent of healing. This has to come to our public spaces right now. This has to exist beyond these places of permission. This doesn't just happen at question time with your politicians where they let you have a microphone to ask them a question. This happens 24/7. The politicians work for the community. And all of these industries are built on the consumer dollar, us participating. We do have power. And let's be inappropriate with our innocence, inappropriate with our humanity. Go and ask someone if they're crying on the steps in the street, if they need help. Even if it's awkward, even if you don't know why they're crying, even if you're not medically trained, this is our common humanity. And somehow people have convinced us, that's a generality, not all of us are convinced, not all people are trying to do it, but in certain areas of life, we have been convinced that we don't have a right to ask a politician to change without, the annual vote. Go and put your thing, tick a box and put it in a box. Oh, that's it. You put a bit of paper in a box, that's all. That was your role in running the country. No. The country is here on the ground level. I remember as a child, I used to think that the government was some kind of like, almost like a floating castle in the sky. The down here, as human as you or I. I remember Steve Jobs talking about, this world we've built, and this is the founder of, or one of the co-founders of Apple, and all of the technology that's come from that. And, you can say good or bad things about it. And I understand this slave labor in China. I understand these things, but it's undeniable that they had a huge effect. Huge effect. And Steve Jobs said, that this world was designed and built by people no smarter than you or I, and often less educated, simply because they took action. And this is the translation of genius into the physical realm. You want to talk about heaven on earth? What does that mean? I believe it's innocence in action. It's simply wanting to give someone something, or wanting to ask someone to stop doing something that's really obviously destructive, and putting it into words. Putting it into a letter, putting it into a hug, putting it into a groundswell activation of going outside Parliament and setting up protest, whatever it is. There is an action which is evidence that the spirit of humanity is here among us. So that is my invitation. What is the love letter you wish to write to humanity? Regardless of how improbable it is that it might eventuate, please just land that heaven on earth. Reach out to that person. Write that letter to the politician. Start that groundswell movement. Open up a workshop. Bring a community together. I don't know what it is for you, but you know the solution. And now, from a heart-centered space, ask yourself, what is the next best step? I'm not talking about 2 months from now. I'm not talking about a month from now. I'm talking about today, in the next 24 hours. What is the most heart-led, not mind-led, not sensible logistical, but heart-led direct action you can take towards that love letter making its way into the world? Just have to be willing to face what that is. And with that knowing, just do what you need to be with it. Squish, open, stretch, breathe, moan, shake. This is what it's like to live a heart-centered life, is to be with what is, to tune in with your knowing, to dare to face what that means as far as action, and then to take that action and surrender as to the results. Because I do believe that all actions based on that kind of intention will bring out some beautiful, beautiful result, even if it ripples out into the ecosystem and you don't get to directly see it. It's like a tree dropping a seed that gets eaten by a bird, and the other baby tree grows on the other side of the hill. The tree might not know, but it's giving. It wants to put the fruit and seed out there. And I believe there's some form of trust, even if it's not like a human cognitive trust. There's a trust in the way that nature behaves, and that it does its thing. The animals sing their song, do their dance, unapologetically put their very luscious, succulent flowers out there, throbbing with color and nectar. Like it's out there, it's doing its thing. It's not asking for permission, because that's what it was born to do. When you look at the word genius, it was the spirit that was attendant upon your birth. You're a particular constellation. You're a composition of skills and capacities and interests. Be led by curiosity. What does your mind naturally understand? Don't always swim upriver. There is a way that you can be effortless in your power. And I do believe that will complement someone who's very different from you, who has an ease in a completely other area, and together they come to form the wheel of co-creation. We don't have to hold all parts. What we do have to do, or I invite you to do, is to face your part, because I do believe we know. And it is that single alignment into integrity, which is based on innocence, which is the theme of today, which will bring ease to your life. Yesterday we're talking about systems as well. Looking at your communication systems, your financial systems, where is the tangle? And often it comes from lack of willingness to face, to confront, to be with. Even just looking at your bills. Just get a bit of paper and write down all of the debts, whether fiscal or otherwise. Just don't even clean your room, just sit in your room and look at it. You don't have to always go face first and have the most awkward conversation, but just don't not show up. Don't ghost your friends. Don't continually shy away from being in the space of the people who are intrinsic to your ecosystem. Just be with them. And sometimes it's not having the uncomfortable conversation that needs to be step one. It's just not having the meaningless conversation of noise. Don't fill the space with chatter about, oh, how are you? Are you good? All the social niceties alienate each other because we know it's fake and we don't feel it in our hearts. Today's about heart. So attempt to just leave space and stillness. If you're not going to do the very bravest thing first off, at least don't do the avoidant thing of not showing up, or when you do show up, talk about rubbish you don't care about, because that's actually a form of pushing people away as well. It's holding up a social layer, a contrivance, a fake plastic or cardboard layer as a facade, and that also prevents true connection. So just dare to be silent among friends. Dare to do something odd, like, can we just sit and breathe together? Can we just look at each other? Can you hold my hand? Ask for the simple thing. Do you want them to just hug you, touch you, squeeze your feet? Do you want them to get a warm meal in a blanket? Like, how innocent and direct and true are some of these things? Let's totally reinvent and recalibrate what it means to hang out with friends. I personally don't like most social events because there's a dance you need to learn, and then you assure people that you're well adjusted by doing the dance, and they assure you, and then you can't wait to leave. Enough of those times. We don't have time for it, quite frankly, because the institutions which are benefiting, look at all of the huge wealth that has been gained by a very small population of people through the last couple of years. Look at the indecency, like talk about the rudeness, the grossness of humans. How gross is it that people are becoming million and billionaires based on sickness? How gross is it that the big pharmaceutical companies are actually thriving now due to the tragedy? How gross is it the price rising and making things less accessible to those who can't afford to be saved? That's pretty much the grossest thing. It's really ironic when you look at the censorship that's happening, where you can't show a nipple, but you can show human battery, and you can forward the psychological warfare of making us not like our own species and feel helpless. Like, that's way more offensive. Not even talking about nipples, like put some vulva and scrotums and anal beads on my feed rather than that. Or, I don't find those things offensive at all. But if you wanted to put it in a category like, there's a lot of heinous things happening. And that's why beauty, I think, is so important. Can you become a source point to balance these things out? Can you have a voice of innocence? Can you not forward the noise which alienates people? Can you recalibrate what it means to hang out with friends? Can you allow yourself the unknowing of what would happen if you sent that love letter? And then maybe a final thing to cover here today is asking ourselves, why would we limit our reach? Because you saying something, or writing a letter to a politician, or starting a community endeavor is a reach into the world based on often your confidence that it can land. There's a bravery in toddlers where they don't know if they can walk and they'll still get up and try, but most of us come to a point where we just do the things we know will succeed. And so why would we limit our reach? Why would I think if I say something, no one's going to hear me? One approach or one theory would be because we are at our heart benevolent and we don't want to damage the world. So if we don't trust ourselves, we will limit our reach to protect the world from us. So one way to heal that and regain trust in self and confidence that you are medicine is to go through and face all of the things which you conceal. You may want to sit down with a really trusted friend and do this together, confide in each other, be a confidant, and confess. Or you may just want to write it down on a bit of paper for yourself and burn it, or any other form of integration, and make amends. Do some action, talking about heaven on earth, we talked about innocence in action. Do something, even if it's not direct. Say if you stole some money from someone and now they've passed away, you can't repay them, maybe pass some money on to someone else. Do some action which helps you feel that you put a ripple towards the truer side of you in that relationship. And it is in doing that, is making our list of the things that went against our own moral compass, not about the societal right or wrong, but what you know at your heart when you feel into what is the most harmonious and in alignment and resonant with you. when we start to face those things, we start to pick it apart. Maybe just sitting there and breathing with it. Or, like I said, taking action to heal it. This starts to revivify our source of authorship, meaning the potency of our transmission is amplified because we're okay with it landing now. If you have a look at any areas of life you're avoiding, and you no longer think, or any time I do think there's money, I wreck it, so don't give me a good job because I'm just going to wreck it and make your product fail. Or every time I get into a relationship, it ends up in fighting, and people tell me at the end of the relationship, they just wish they never met me. If these are the things that we're living through, meaning it's like a veil in front of me, and my source goes through that as a filter before it reaches anyone else, I'm going to yank my effectiveness back. I'm going to limit and mute and numb my impact. So, to counterpoint that, once you think, man, I'm medicine. If I go into a business, they're going to have so much innovation. It's going to have so much heart that any money made is going to actually go to a good cause. And a relationship, you know what? I'm going to learn. So I'm going to sit with them through the fire, and I'm going to be the place that they land all their triggers, and I'm going to hold it so well that even if we break up, we're both going to be alchemized. All of a sudden, people will start to hear you because you let yourself be heard. Your letter will miraculously end up on the desk and be opened because you know that it is valid, that your innocence, even if not fully thought out, you don't have to fully understand world economics. You don't have to fully understand the medical nature of the physical, the human biome, down to a molecular level like a scientist, to have some kind of opinion about your body, about your health, about your psychology, about community, about your interest, about the stories that we can tell as a community to set a new goalpost for us to work towards. Because these things are based on story, not actuality. And mass media and, there's a big part of diplomacy and governance is telling good stories, convincing people to get on board. If you've ever gone to a VC, like a venture capital with angel investors, you're just telling them on possibilities, but they can give you tens, hundreds, if not millions of dollars based on an idea. And so what I want to have happen is that this heart, this center here, our innocence, our unbridled hope, our optimism, our willingness to contribute, our particular genius, our weird little offers of, I don't know, I'd just rather hug you right now, rather than discuss blah, blah, blah. That is going to tell a new narrative. And there was a wise man who once said, those who love peace have to be as well organized as those who love war. Because there is a very industrious factory of stories and factory of division and a monopoly on, of course, guns. And there's a stranglehold on money aimed at the direction of continue to benefit those who, like I said, in an obscene way, benefit from what's happening on these tragic fronts. So we have to match that with our industry, our industriousness, our hard work, our commitment, the loudness that we proclaim the positivity and hope for humanity, the generosity with which we connect with each other, the flagrant disregard for external impositions of warnings and fears and curtailing our willingness to communicate with some kind of groundless desire to express love, hope, connection, wellness. Silly little ideas which might actually turn a current minefield or a coal mine or an area that's being flattened to make IKEA furniture or whatever it is. I mean, no hate against IKEA. I don't know if they're the principal offender. But you know what we're doing. Can we turn that into a nature reserve? Can we bring about a flourishing land-based communal life where you don't have to pay to play, where you can give your gifts and we work out a new tokenized economy through decentralized finance, where all of the cream off the top that has been scooped into, honestly, probably fat white men's pockets can suddenly be distributed through a sentient system predicated on the idea of distributed networks and open, trustless ledgers of financial exchange, of community equity, where you can actually have money based on your participation in a group. And as the value of that, maybe it's a token goes up, your distribution, because you've been there helping the groundswell, benefits. And maybe having other kind of distribution where it's not just about a transactional exchange, but we create symbiotic ecosystems to do with fuel, to do with food, to do with shelter, to do with other resources, that have another measurement of being justifiably given and received? Like, is it possible? Am I just ludicrous? Am I just an insane, raving lunatic? Maybe. And that's okay. But I'm going to say it. And that's the point. It doesn't have to result in utopia. The big healing is the fact that people like me exist and that people like you exist, and we have these ideas and we have these hearts that want this to be the case. We can live through hell as long as we're building heaven. Things don't have to be good. We just have to be working towards making it so. It's when we become idle. What do they say? The devil finds work for idle hands. There are truths in these institutionalized religions. There are beauties in these scriptures. I'm not against any of these systems as long as we find our position within them. As long as we take responsibility for the fact that these external things represent something which is innate to me and only I know what that is. And only I can do this from my particular perspective. And it's the fact that we acknowledge that and we become responsible and accountable and we start to show up. Like I said at the beginning of this, show up, communicate, connect, learn, grow, be humble enough to change, be humble enough to be great. And know that changing doesn't mean failure, doesn't mean you were wrong, doesn't mean you're an idiot, doesn't mean you're worthless. This relates to all different realms. So, be willing to be wrong, as well as being willing to be right. Knowing that it's actually right to know that you're wrong and to change. Does that make sense? It's actually right to realize and admit that you're wrong and then change and go towards the fixing. And this is the other thing about iteration being so important. I went to design school. We were told, don't finish the first design in the first week. Make something, then put it out. Get the feedback loop. Then change, iterate, grow, evolve, adapt. This is how nature works. But the consumer capitalist well-branded marketplace wants you to have a really polished thing on day one for launch. It's solved already. You didn't even ask anyone. Maybe you did some kind of brand surveys, but generally it's like it's done, in the bag. Boom! And I think that's too much of an ask for us as individuals to have it solved. Like, don't say it unless it's perfect. No, say it. And then realize how silly it sounded when you learn something else. And then change it. And that's how to always be right, is because you're always evolving and adapting and honoring what is, because you're facing it to observe. Yeah, this is good. This is possible. We can do this. And then on the other side of humility is being humble enough to be great. And what I mean by that is, not all of this is based on your rightness or wrongness, but there are some universal principles, like for me, art and nature, which don't, like the goodness of them is not based on my opinion or my ability with them. I don't have to be a great painter or violinist to tell you music and visual beauty will assist you. I don't have to be a horticulturist or permaculturalist to tell you taking up your shoes and connecting with nature, lying on the earth, going for a walk once in a while, getting your eyes beyond the screen is going to be good. And I will rally behind them with a lion's roar, with a greatness, you might say, with an eloquence and a confidence and a directness and an openness because of their greatness, not because of my greatness. Like nature and art is great, soul, community, love is great. And that's why I step in with unblinking confidence, giving these sermons, because I'm talking about something great, not because I'm great. But if I'm going to be the spokesperson for it, if I'm going to be the mouthpiece, I will aspire that the delivery point, my instrument, is doing justice to the beauty of what I'm talking about. So, very simply, align yourself to things you are 100% passionate about beyond yourself. You might love nursing, you might want to be a doula, you might love childbirth. You might just something about food and nourishing and healing people through the medicine of things growing out of the earth might be something you don't doubt. Maybe it's the simplicity of conflict resolution. You want to be a relationship coach or be a diplomat or help, refugees talk to politicians. Find something you do not doubt and then get atop that horse and be that jockey that just rides that directly, unapologetically, majestically into the public space and be great. Do not do an act of disservice by pretending it's about you and apologizing. Oh, sorry, I haven't prepared here. Sorry. We, especially in Australia and New Zealand, have the tall poppy syndrome where we want to come across as humble. So it's hugely blasphemous almost to represent nature you might want to eat the green things or go climb a tree, but probably not. Actually, it's probably going to be crap. What? A tree is crap? Like, come on, have some humility to admit the greatness. Is it making sense? Be humble enough to be great. Come with clarity, still your mind. It's not about you. And come forward and feel, experience. It's not about performance. Experience it in the moment. Tap into the full beauty. And this is how we have sustainability in our mission. If you are riding on the life force of that external thing that you represent, like childbirth or like equality or like nature, whatever the thing is, it will be your life force, and you will be able to have a sustainable business, and you will be able to show up day after day, year after year. I've been doing what I'm doing right now here, talking, running workshops, activating people's creativity, bringing them into the wilderness, equipping with them a confidence that they have a right to be part of human beings on earth for years. And look how excited I am. Look how excited I am. I often say that I've only ever written one poem, done one performance, run one workshop. It's all about the same thing. It's about self-realization. It's about the power of art to be a channel for nature. And it's about the idiocy of the imposition of society run on laws based on control. And it's about the ultimate chaotic surrender of the clown. Like, these are my themes. Play for a living. These are my themes. And yet I'm filled with the life source right now like it's day one. I haven't run out, because it's not coming from me. It's coming from my excitement about something out here. And I do believe that I am a very able and eloquent mouthpiece for it. And I intend to hold a workshop or run a live like this, which impacts lives. And I'm not stumbling, and I'm not uncertain. And I'm going to take you through to the conclusion in a moment, and we're going to land this, and you're going to feel, I'm going to do something. That is my absolute 100% confident intention. But like I said, it's not the result that matters, because that would be me being controlling. I'm not going to message each of you and go, so exactly what did happen? That's not the point. Because there are so many particles. Each of you are coming from so many different directions. Each of you might know someone who even just looks like me with a beard, who was a dick, and you don't want to hear what I'm saying. Maybe I'm too excited for you. Maybe if I had to come in here with a more calm, placid approach, which I did yesterday, by the way, then you would have been able to receive it. So many variables. So it's not the result. It's the fact that I can arrive here today with the confidence that allows the greatness to come. And I will allow you in your beautiful chaos to land it in your heart, and most importantly, be the relay point for this beacon. And I'm just saying, fucking do what you know at your heart you would do if you trusted yourself to impact the world. Kids think they're great. I used to walk into a room and think everyone was happy because I arrived. Everyone, I'm here! Please go out with that kind of innocence. Strip off the layers of muting and numbing, which you might have in place from past things which you don't feel good about. Be accountable, take some action to finally liberate the potency of your transmission. Take time each day to land into stillness, come to your senses, and face the world anew. Inquire through an innocent lens to what your heart would love to do, and then dare to do the innocent thing. Dare to just ask. Ask people to stop killing each other. Ask us to evaporate war. Like, let's not fight war, let's just evaporate, sublimate it. Let's just have it dissolve. And let's tell such a well-articulated story that it forms a new point for our hearts to align to. Let's bring back the trust amongst each other. And you're going to be the evidence for one other person that humanity and the spirit of humanity still exists here on this physical plane. Big love, big love. How big? I don't know. let's make it bigger. I'm Atlas Talisman. That's just a made-up name. This is open world theater. That's just a hope. But there is some truth, and if you can dig into it today and feel some flickers of authenticity that absolutely resonate to your truth, I'm so happy. I'm so happy. This is day 3 of 5, 2 more to come. There's a beauty in all this, and your heart knows where it is. Please follow it.